Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Arvind Vardarajan, and I lead Metric Stream in Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. Thank you so much for your time today and for attending this summit. I'm very excited to host this session with Santosh Gaon from Aviva Sing Life, based in Singapore, in a fireside chat on leadership and transformation during a merger. So, without much ado, let me welcome and introduce our guest speaker, Santosh Gaon. Santosh is the Chief Information Officer at Aviva Sing Life, one of the largest insurance companies here in Singapore and also in Southeast Asia. Santosh is an MBA with specialization in IT and strategy. Santosh provides leadership for the continued development of an innovative, robust, and secure information technology to support the ever evolving needs of the customers and distributors. Santosh also leads the digital strategy for Aviva Sing Life, implementing a number of strategic initiatives to support the growth in business and, most important, delivering a differentiated experience for his customers. He has been very instrumental in setting up Aviva's wholly owned subsidiary, which is a financial advisory firm in Singapore. And prior to joining Aviva Sing Life, Santosh worked across diverse industries such as manufacturing, telecom, and technology. Both Santosh and I are based out of Singapore. So first of all, Santosh, a warm welcome. Welcome to the session and thank you for the great partnership. On your introduction, Santosh, did I miss anything?
No. Thank you for the introduction, Arvind. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks. So Santosh, today I would like to focus our discussion on leadership and transformation lessons that you have personally experienced through the recent coming together of Singapore Life and Aviva Singapore to create this new entity called Aviva Sing Life Holdings. We know this merger was announced in September last year. It was one of the largest deal in the insurance sector in Singapore and one of the biggest in Southeast Asia. So, Santosh, my first question is, with Sing Life and Aviva Singapore coming together, combining their business and creating this new entity, Aviva Sing Life Holdings, what were some of your biggest challenges and key priorities you faced during this merger?
Thank you, Arvind. So maybe I'll start with the merger, and you did touch upon a very important aspect as far as the merger is concerned. So this merger through which Sing Life with Aviva has been created is in fact one of the largest in the insurance sector in Southeast Asia and the largest in Singapore as well. And by combining Aviva Singapore and Sing Life, we are essentially creating a homegrown regional brand that will create innovative financial products and will serve the needs of the customer both locally as well as regionally. In fact, the scheme of transfer is expected to complete by January next year. Then coming to the key priorities, I would say separation from the parent organization in London to be able to merge with Sing Life was one of the key priority. In fact, this has also been one of the biggest challenges because as you go through the entire transition of separation as well as integration, the organization, we have to manage the risk of two different operating environments and a hybrid operating model till the entities are fully merged. And a separation exercise is usually a distraction, and hence the emphasis was to separate out of what I call it the mothership, so that we can accelerate the integrated strategy of Sing Life with Aviva. Then moving on to priorities around merger, any integration requires significant heavy lifting in terms of planning and capability build right in the initial stages. So setting out a technology-enabled blueprint that will drive the new strategy was the other key priority. And looking through the strategy, we prioritized our investment in areas that will drive growth, experience, as well as differentiation. Then moving on to the other big areas of focus, it was to establish an integrated digital roadmap where we could bring the customer and the distribution ecosystem together and how we could leverage data to differentiate our strategy. And lastly, it was about being sharper, identifying those opportunities to automate and simplify the business and cutting waste and eliminating all the bad cost. And with this, we had the opportunity to redirect these costs to more strategic areas of investment. And here the priority was not to cut costs, but to sharpen our capabilities. So cost was treated as a byproduct of the actions which we were taking. Then talking about the challenges, in fact, the way I position it, I call it learnings. So we had to focus a lot, on building the capabilities that traditionally were managed through London, and also new capabilities to support the integrated strategy. And we all know the crunch in tech talent across the industry. The other big challenge was around aligning the mindset, as the operating model and the cultural alignment of the two organizations were different compared to what we wanted to achieve out of the merged organization. And I think the biggest learning has been around managing expectations of different stakeholders throughout this entire process, right from staff all the way to the board. And I feel this is the most critical success factor of any merger, but generally the most ignored.
Great to hear the focus on sharpening the capabilities, Santosh. A follow-up question to that is, how do you see technology as an enabler in your overall transformation? You lead the digital strategy, and me being a user of Avio, I had seamless experience, but keen to hear your thoughts as how you see technology as an enabler and helping you thrive on this. So over to you.
Okay. So I think, this merger with Singlife, in my view, has brought a major shift in the positioning of the technology within the business. And as an integrated strategy, I would say there is a lot of support from the senior leadership team and the board, both in terms of ambition as well as funding in the merged business. So technology enablement in our business is seen as key in shaping up and accelerating the business strategy. And within the context of Singlife with Aviva, technology is quite central to our strategy. And just to give you some examples, we are increasing the level of automation to reduce the manual work across the organization. We are looking at opportunities where we would have created siloed applications in the past, as it directly affects, operational efficiency, the straight-through percentages, and the self-servicing capabilities of the customers. So we are investing significantly in digital and data, as there are huge opportunities around all of the data that we gather from different touch points of our customers. And combined with big data, we want to create more meaningful proposition for our distributors, our customers, and the wider ecosystem in which we operate. And in fact, all of the new infrastructure that we are laying down is cloud-based. All of them are SaaS platforms. So there is a clear technology blueprint that has been laid out. And the investment in technology has started to take shape, and it is accelerating our pace of transformation. And I think this will change the way we create our products. It will change the way we create our experiences for both the customers as well as distributors within our business.
Yeah, very valid. Thank you. And Santosh, now that Aviva Singlife is even a larger organization, post the merger, how does the board view the importance of GRC program? I mean, you have talked about risk by design earlier. How do you embed risk? Risk is not an afterthought, but it has to be in your design. So how does the board view the importance of a robust, resilient GRC program?
Yeah, thank you. And you touched upon a very important aspect, risk by design. So, we are increasingly seeing over the last few years that financial organizations are now operating in a more complex and regulatory compliance requirements. So the firms face the risk from several areas, and they are not just restricted to financial and regulatory, but also cybersecurity, operational, geopolitical, and environment, just to name a few. And in our case, the new board of the combined organization is very proactive, and they are setting the tone from the top. So they have mandated the need for a strong governance and controls framework. And the board strongly believes that it is critical for the board to cultivate a culture of risk awareness at all levels. So there is an expectation that GRC is part of our organization DNA. In fact, our new chair of the board risk committee did a training very recently for all the leadership team and the senior managers on his expectation around an integrated risk framework and how it needs to be implemented across the group. So the board is really spending time in ensuring that Singlife with Aviva has a comprehensive GRC framework, and they are ensuring that the management team is identifying these risks quantifying and qualifying them, and developing the right risk mitigation strategy. So in summary, I would say, the board is very proactive. They are taking a more proactive approach in managing risks and improving the risk posture. The board clearly wants to avoid surprises and wants to ensure that the system and policies are in place to effectively mitigate any adverse situation. And there is an expectation from the senior leadership team. The board wants a common, consistent, and transparent view that is based on a single source of truth across the entire group.
No, that's very well said. Thank you, Santosh. I think being consistent and having that one version of truth is important. Now, in your journey towards the integrated risk management, what were some of your key considerations to build out a GRC program post the merger, as a combined entity?
No, that's a great question. So, as you would expect in any merger, the two entities coming together would have different profile, different risk frameworks. Starting point has to be to align, the framework, the standard, the policies, and we wanted to take this opportunity to leverage some of the more established and widely accepted frameworks like NIST to support our GRC program, which is on top of the existing regulatory standards like MAS, TRM. And technology enablement was one of the the other key considerations. And in the past, we didn't use any enterprise risk platform, so we had to approach governance in a very piecemeal fashion. So we had to use various siloed technologies and processes with no centralized technology program or oversight. And you would know that if Excel and email are the best examples of technology, you're not going to too far in terms of the GRC program. So I would say that siloed technology made it quite difficult for us to fully capitalize on our GRC activities. So selection of the right GRC platform was quite key. And what we have realized is that when you have governance programs independent of one another, it makes it very difficult for the businesses to assess the overall program effectiveness. And it is quite difficult for the functions or business units to have a strong understanding of any cross-cutting risks or deficiencies in governance that could impact them. And I think this is where platforms like MetricStream makes it very easier to consolidate information, review key dependencies and risks across the enterprise, and that can help identify the governance weaknesses and potential issues.
Thank you, Santosh. One last question from me. Given your experience, what are some of the key takeaways and advice you would give to the summit attendees here to build a resilient, risk-aware organization or a risk by design organization? Keen to hear your thoughts, some of the top 3 or 5 key takeaways from your perspective.
Sure. Thank you, Arvind. I think that's a great question again. So let me talk about the few critical elements in my view, which is absolutely critical in developing a resilient and risk-aware organization. I think the first one is around adequately identifying, and evaluating and capturing the potential risks which the organization faces. And the objective should be around identifying the likelihood and potential severity of this risk. The second element, in my view, should be around developing an appropriate framework, and this should be involving mapping the appropriate controls and management actions, including any escalations or a clear communication strategy. The third one, in my view, is around developing a suitable and specific mitigation strategy, and with clearly identified actions and accountabilities. And the last element, which I touch upon, is around having a single source of truth. I think the best decisions are the ones that are taken with all the available information. And this is where choosing the right GRC solution is critical, as the design should allow you to organize information and adapt it to your organization dynamics. And the role of the leadership team and board is quite critical in bringing up a risk and resilient organization, not only in ensuring and communicating how the GRC program can help support the organization's strategic vision, because even the best strategy can fail if the key risks are not identified and if proper controls are not in place. And the last but the key one is around, creating the right level of awareness within the teams. And, as they say that people are the strongest as well as the weakest link in how the organization manage the key risks.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Santosh. In summarize, I captured a few. One is really look at risks across the enterprise, not just in silos, but also to prioritize them with the right framework and look at an end-to-end framework and look at how you would handle an incident to communication to mitigation. Most importantly, having a single source of truth or being very, very data led. And most important, build that culture of awareness, culture of risk by design, and empowering your frontline, so that they are very aware of what's happening because they are the ones on the field. Is that a good summary, Santosh?
That's a great summary, Arvind. That's a great summary.
Thank you. Well, thanks again, Santosh, for taking time. I know you're very busy, but very grateful to you for taking time, and thank you for the great partnership. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Santosh Gaun, CIO Aviva Singlife from Singapore. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Have a wonderful rest of the summit. Thanks again, Santosh.
Thank you. Pleasure speaking. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.